we've just been around the block too many times that we know what is realistic and we know what is unrealistic. And it's our job as professionals to educate the consumer.
Welcome to the Business of Architecture. I'm your host, Rion Willard, and today I had the distinct pleasure of speaking with Joel Tanner, who is the owner and founder of SMPL Design Studio based in Canada. Over the past 15 years, his firm has left an indelible mark on the architectural landscape, having meticulously crafted over 1,000 projects, spanning the expanse of Canada, as well as venturing into select regions of the USA and the Caribbean. At the heart of their ethos lies a commitment to gnarly design, breathing life into each project with an unparalleled fervor. Their approach is deeply rooted in the synergy between the client's lifestyles and the very fabric of the land that they inhabit, whether it be navigating the confines of urban living or embracing the boundless vistas of rural expanses. They embrace the challenge of pushing the boundaries of comfort to forge something truly exceptional. From snug city lots to sprawling rural retreats, spanning acres of untouched beauty, they embark on a journey to create havens that resonate with their clients and their loved ones for generations to come. Join us as we unravel the intricacies of their craft and explore the stories behind the walls that they build. So on today's episode, Joel and myself dive in and we talk about their fixed fee approach and how they actually manage to keep their projects on budget and on time, not just to their client's budget, but actually to their own fee budget, and the tools that they use to do that and the challenges that they face whilst doing that. We also look at what does $200,000 of marketing spend look like in a 20-person firm. Joel breaks it down to us of the sorts of investments that they make on an annual and monthly basis to ensure that their message is reaching their target market. And we also look at introducing new product lines and revenue streams. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Joel Tanner. This episode is sponsored by Smart Practice, Business of Architecture's flagship program to help you structure your firm for freedom, fulfillment, and financial profit. If you want access for our free training on how to do this, please visit smartpracticemethod.com. Or if you want to speak directly to one of our advisors about how he might be able to help you, please follow the link in the information. Hello listeners, we hope you're enjoying our show. We love bringing you these insightful conversations, but we couldn't do it without the support of our amazing sponsors. If you're a business owner or know someone who would be an excellent fit for our audience, we'd love to hear from you. Partnering with us means your brand will reach over 40,000 engaged listeners each month. Interested in becoming a sponsor? Please send us an email at support@businessofarchitecture.com. Joel, welcome to the Business of Architecture. How are you?
Absolutely. Very well. Thank you very much for having me today.
My pleasure. So you are a past Business of Architecture program participant, if you like. You did the AFF program back in the day. That must have been a few years ago.
It was.
You're an architectural technologist, and you're the founder and owner of SMPL Design Studio. So welcome to the show. You've got a fantastic portfolio of a lot of really high-end, high-caliber residential work, and I think it's quite interesting because you're actually an architectural technologist as opposed to an architect, and I think that sometimes architects, certainly in the UK, the architects and architectural technologists can always have a little bit of kind of competitive rivalry with each other.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting service offering, and the two can work very well together. And it's also interesting to kind of distinguish the differences and the benefits of each with your clients. So perhaps we can start with actually, how did you come to found your studio?
Absolutely. So I completed a 3-year architectural technology program back between 2003 and 2006 at Algonquin College in Ottawa. From there, I moved out to beautiful British Columbia. Always wanted to live there. Worked 2 different jobs between 2006 and 2010. I founded the firm in 2010, had a really unique opportunity. I was design department manager at a pre-manufactured home company. and there was a bit of a lull in production, and so I took a sabbatical. And I had an opportunity to design a new home for a client. And that company I was working for, they didn't want to take the project on because it was a modern home, and our company didn't specialize in that. So I actually took a sabbatical, took on that contract. That was our first client officially, and just never went back to the firm.
Mm.
And here we are almost 15 years later, this coming January 2025. It'll be 15 years that we've been in operation. And yeah, so pretty exciting.
So you would have gone through the kind of challenging period around 2008, which often leaves a lot of emotional business scars for many a business owner. How was it during that period for you? Because that's kind of pretty much just about when you set up.
So 2008 recession, I was working at a firm, and I was very lucky. So we went overnight with that recession from a team of about 70 individuals down to
Hmm.
25.
Wow.
I wasn't part of the cut, so I stayed on with the firm. But it was a pretty intense lesson learned in terms of how quickly things can go from really, really positive to really,
Hmm.
really negative very quickly.
Yeah.
There was a lot of movement in the industry. And at the time I was working the firm's still around, super, super specialized, high-end timber frame home manufacturer located
Hmm.
in BC. And yeah, there was a lot of struggle there. And so that, kind of opened up my eyes come 2020 with the pandemic. And it was a very similar series of events, especially for us in our industry at that time.
What sorts of things did you find when you were going through COVID that you sort of started to do to prepare for an economic downturn? And also right now, as we begin to talk, because there's been conversations for years now of the next impending recession, and certainly in the US anyway, there's the kind of election has caused kind of hesitancy with client decision making. How do you typically navigate any oncoming economic storms, or what are some of the things that you do in the business to make sure that you're able to move your way or be nimble through any kind of sudden change?
Yeah, so we did the business of architecture training program in the fall of 2019 with Enoch Sears.
Hmm.
And so that was originally going to be a 3-month program. Sorry, no, 6-month program, which they actually extended to 12 months. So we were kind of knee deep in the training with them as COVID was kicking in. So we started in October, November 2019. So within a 24-hour span, we were able to kind of turn the company on its head. That was the
Hmm.
first time we had to shrink the firm. So right away in that 24-hour period, we unfortunately had to let go 2 individuals.
Right.
And we reset our expectation in terms of, what our high-end deliverables need to be, what projects can continue, what projects are going to stall. So there was no doubt a lot of stress during that period. The nice part about being knee deep in the training process with Enoch and their team is the ability to be able to kind of financially, we're in a stable spot. From a marketing perspective, we're in a stable spot. From a clientele perspective, we're in a stable spot. And it was a matter of just kind of resetting our expectations,
Hmm.
looking into government programs that were kicking in. And so that started tail end of March 2020,
Hmm.
which unfortunately also coincided with moving into a brand new building that we had purchased and completely renovated. So we were in that space for 30 days,
Oh
and we had to
man.
send the entire team home. So it was a absolute whirlwind. Um, but then, you look 90 days from that period. So you look out to June 2020, and all of a sudden the market for us was exploding.
Hmm.
And so it was, there was a lot of stress involved in that, obviously. Where we are today is we anticipated with kind of, so to speak, the death of COVID and the modifications to the market, higher interest rates. We were very much anticipating a change in the market. And our real estate market up here in Canada has definitely taken a toll over the last 12 months, 18 months. And about 18 months ago, maybe 24 months ago, we started to see the writing on the wall that things were changing. So in 2022, we spent about $40,000 on marketing. 2023, we stepped that up to about $120,000. 2024, we're gonna probably hit by the end of this calendar year $200,000 in marketing. And that was never really a thing that we needed to concentrate on and focus on. But in order for us to kind of maintain and to stabilize, because we're not looking to grow, but we have a team of 20 people. We do architectural design, we do interior design. There's a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of kind of business to keep rolling. So for us, it's been a massive investment. It's been a massive learning curve over the last 18 to 24 months to figure out where to spend your money. And we're constantly shifting. We have a marketing meeting tomorrow, but November 1st, we're taking our advert dollars from Google and we're shifting it over to YouTube because we're seeing a massive increase in clientele coming directly to our firm from our YouTube videos. So, with any business, it's an ever evolving process. There's constant changes, and we're just trying to stay ahead of all those details.
So for many a practice, even thinking about spending 50 grand, let alone $120,000, $200,000 on marketing is unfathomable. And it delights me to hear that's something that you guys are really putting your energy into and have developed as a result some pretty amazing social media channels. Can you walk us through a little bit about what sorts of things did you begin to invest in specifically first with your marketing, and how you've kind of been ramping that up? And now I'm assuming you've got people who are kind of full-time on board with you, or do you have like consultants that you're kind of working with, or a mixture of both? Or ad spend, a lot of ad spend.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to 2010, first starting the company, after that first contract was signed, so it was very old school. So it was pre-Instagram, very early days of Facebook in terms of business marketing. And so we were in a smaller town and we relied on newspaper ads and our signage out front of the buildings that we're getting put up, whether it was a deck, whether it was a sunroom edition, second floor edition, we always had signage, and really wanted to grow that presence in the city with that approach. And we still do that today, being a team of 20 doing 50, 60 projects a year, we're still pushing our signage pretty hard. We're no longer doing newspaper ads, obviously, 15 years later. But when we came, actually brought the business, started in British Columbia in 2010, actually relocated back to Ontario, where I grew up, in 2012 with my wife. Wanted to kind of settle down and have kids. So the revamp in Ontario, we jumped knee deep into home shows. So we did the spring fall home shows in Hamilton and Toronto. And that was a pretty grueling exercise, mentally draining, physically draining, lots of energy, lots of time, not a massive financial investment just because of our approach with a 10 by 10 booth. Right. It was a fairly reasonable expense. And we're quite thankful. We still have some of those relationships even today that we formed that 12 years ago. But we don't do the home shows anymore. We're very purely digital, and we're also signage on our properties. Instagram is been pretty significant. So I jumped on board Instagram in January 2016 through a nudge from my wife, and that has been a massive tool for us. It's been amazing to be able to introduce potential clients to the homes through renderings, through videos, through video walkthroughs. So we do these videos called our Feature Fridays. So we try to, I mean, really get as many of them out there as possible. We've probably done about 35 over the last 3 years.
Hmm.
And the feature Fridays are anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes. So that is done by an external videographer that we work with. He's absolutely fantastic.
Right.
It's a project by project basis. So I don't have him on full time, and he does work with other builders and other designers in Ontario. But
Hmm.
he's been a really, really fantastic asset, and we have a really good time doing them together. We're always trying to push the envelope and get a little bit more creative with all of our videos.
Hmm.
And we also work with an external chief marketing officer. So we brought her on board about 6 months ago. Um, and that's been an adventure, and like a really positive adventure. And it's a matter of, at the end of the day, we're not specialists in business, and it's been a constant learning battle for the last 15 years, and will continue to be. But she's bringing a lot of knowledge to the table, having worked for multinational corporations, that she can kind of bring down to the scale of our operation and really finesse and enhance what we're bringing from a service offering perspective to our clients, and better sell that out to the open market.
Is this
So that's been
is she a full-time position?
it's she's part time, yeah. So she's part time, and it's contract basis. So she's actually not in our office.
Right.
So she works for several different firms in varying kind of sanctions, and so yeah. So she's not specific to the architectural world,
Right.
but she's been a fantastic aid for us.
Amazing.
Outside of that, it's me on Instagram daily,
Hmm.
making daily posts, and so again, that's a lot of energy. We always talk about bringing somebody on full time for the marketing side of things, but this kind of alternative approach with exterior individuals has been working really well for us. So we've kind of stayed on that train for the last little bit, and it's been good.
And do you find with your social media platforms that like how do you get people from being a subscriber to a channel to actually becoming a paying client, if you like?
Yeah,
What's
absolutely
the, what
fantastic
what
question.
what's the kind of steps in the funnel?
Yeah. So, for the last 7.5 years, it was literally just posting on Instagram every single day.
Hmm.
And through that, we would get lead generation through our website and lead generation through our Instagram direct messages. Having said that, we never really had a true sales funnel for Instagram.
Right.
So working with our now part-time CMO, she's finessed us to have a new lead generation magnet on Instagram and a new approach to kind of work them into the sales funnel.
Hmm.
And that's been an interesting adventure. And so that's what we're now jumping into as well from a YouTube side of things. Now we're starting to see a lot of leads naturally coming through on YouTube. So we're going to start working kind of the YouTube angle, just like we are the Instagram angle. Google Ads. We've been spending a large sum of money on Google Ads for the last 24 months, and unfortunately, not really that much to show for it. And so we've learned the lesson, so to speak, the hard way, in terms of the dollars that we've put out. And it, works for some companies. It's not really working for us right now.
Hmm. That's interesting. I mean, we've often, I've seen a lot of businesses in the past when they're trying to find their feet with the ad spend, and it's
Hmm.
not an insignificant amount of money that you need to be spending on
Yeah,
it to actually start getting the kind of results that you'd be expecting from it.
yeah, yeah. And that's why I think, word of mouth. So word of mouth through
Hmm.
existing clients, past clients, builders, suppliers. That is still a significant part of our marketing campaign, in
Hmm.
addition to these ad spends.
Yeah,
Um, and then signage. Signage has always been a significant source of revenue and potential clients for us as well,
it's a it's
because
a
we
it's an
have.
oldie but a goodie.
It is right, and pictures worth 1,000 words, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's in front of you,
Hmm.
live as a home is getting constructed. And because our product is so unique and so tailored, we very much push zero copy paste in the industry and in our firm. And so we're always reinventing the wheel. And I think that's also what helps us, by putting out unique product and having clients that allow us to put out unique product. It makes the marketing side of things a little bit easier,
Hmm.
Because we're always marketing something new and different and exciting, that people aren't necessarily seeing in the industry all the time.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I often meet a lot of, the architectural technologists, and find that they're often way more inventive and innovative with their business and the way that they're actually marketing and bringing the services to their kind of target demographic. Perhaps we could talk a little bit about that, and perhaps you could set the context of in Canada, what is the difference between an architect and an architectural technologist? What can you do as an architect that you can't do as an architectural technologist, and what can you do as an architectural technologist that you can't do as an architect, and why do the two exist?
Yeah, absolutely. So my training is very technical.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't say it's purely technical, but it was 95% technical,
Right.
and 5% design. And the 5% design was not necessarily a taught design class. It was more so, given some freedom to work through a design element while creating technical drawings.
Hmm.
And so the design side for me, luckily, is a natural ability that I was born with. My passion for architecture goes way back to I was 9, 10, 11, and 12 years old. And, thankfully my parents supported me, and I bought a whole bunch of foam core board, and I, built houses for fun out of foam core board. And so,
Amazing.
that passion then grew to taking classes in high school, for drafting, 3D modeling, etc. And that just kind of progressively built that platform to doing what I want to do and what I'm doing now. And so very, very much technically driven. Whereas the architectural side is, obviously there is a technical component when you're going to university for architecture, but they're very, very heavy design driven education.
Hmm.
As a technologist, we can basically, per the Ontario Building Code with BCIN certification, which is your building code identification number, so that allows the firm the ability to stamp plans. We can do up to 600 square meter building footprints. So anything over that, you have to bring an architect on board.
Hmm.
And so that's essentially our cut point. And it hasn't really become an issue for very many projects. We
Hmm.
maybe have one or two a year that we bring an architect on board and collaborate with them for technical purposes and then stamping purposes for those larger dwellings.
Hmm.
But it's very much our expertise and our passion, and our specialty is single family homes. When you get into, let's say, multi-unit residential, tower design, commercial, institutional, that is very much a architectural focused product line.
Hmm.
And we stay out of it. It's not our passion. And B, it's very much there for, in my opinion, a big bulk of the architects to really specialize and focus and hone in on their skills. You know, but we do compete against a lot of really good architectural firms in the Toronto area on our
Hmm.
projects. And what I've found over the years is the more interesting work we do, the more our brand gets out there, the more we're competing against them.
Yeah.
Um, and for us, that's very powerful because I think we both have a place in the industry. And some clients are very okay with paying, larger sum architectural fees.
Hmm.
Our typical clientele, we have a fixed cost that we stick to in order to get from A to Z with architectural design, with documentation, with permitting, with construction administration on site. But we have to be pretty efficient because of that fixed cost that we present to our clients. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's a very different platforms. Yeah, but I think there's room for both of us.
How do I mean? I find it interesting as well. In a current architectural education, the biggest complaint that we hear from architecture firms is that newly qualified architects and architecture students have got no idea about construction science or how buildings are put together. And
Yeah.
even if I looked at my own architectural education, I'd be very critical of it in the sense of, like, I didn't learn how to design buildings. right? There was a lot of strategic thought and design thinking and design philosophy,
Yep.
even, and speculating about what architecture could be. But the very core practical aspects of being an architect and understanding how buildings put together, that was, it was kind of scarily missing. And how and do we not see like more architectural technologists working in architecture firms or even collaborating, where you're able to bring that kind of technical expertise to make, a design-led architecture firm have that more core competency? Do you see that happening, or do you have any kind of thoughts yourself about the sort of two education strands and why they exist the way they do?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from in terms of the formal training from an architectural versus a technologist perspective. And I think a lot of our team members that are technologists bring a lot to the table in terms of understanding construction. And they know how to put together a detail. They know how to put together a set of plans. They're still learning. That's kind of the reality is hands-on experience is really the most powerful. You can only learn so much in 3 years at school. And I think the programs here in Ontario, from a technologist perspective, do a really, really good job. But there is only so much that can be taught at school. And so we're, even here we are, we've got team members that have been with our firm for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. And, because we're constantly reinventing the design wheel, we're not copying and pasting details. We're also constantly reinventing the details wheel. And so that's an interesting perspective too, where, it really depends on what, if you're in the subdivision market versus the custom home market. And then when you're within the custom home market, what are you truly specializing in? And I would say that from an architectural perspective, I think it's tricky. More focus needs to be paid on, at the end of the day, we are being hired, whether we're technologists/designers or architects, we're being hired as professionals to put out a set of documentation that the city can approve and that can make sense with a builder on site to put the home together per the expectation that you've set with the client. And so it's a massive, obligation for us as professionals. And so the more we can do as professionals to learn those details and educate, so A, educate our team members, and then B, also educate builders, right? Because if you're constantly reinventing the wheel, you can't just expect them to understand how to put that detail together. So more energy needs to be put into the drawings, more time needs to be put into the project on site. Better expectations need to be met with clients. And so, we've also talked at times with clients to say, listen, like, this project has never been built in the world ever. These details that we've introduced and the parameters that we've introduced on your property very specifically don't exist anywhere. And so there's absolutely going to be problem solving above and beyond our drawings to ensure that we can get to the finish line and have that product on site look as per the drawings and the renderings and the beautiful pictures that we've created. So it's a massive task, right? So I don't necessarily think that there's a perfect formula, but I think that the perfect formula is the team. So, we have people on our staff. So there's 20 of us in the office. We have technologists. We have people that have been trained with, Bachelor of Architecture degree. We have one team member doing her master's right now, and then she's going to be back with us full time in May next year. And so having that mix and having that collaboration is critical to drive the success of these projects and to drive the success of the firm. So I think, internally we lean on each other heavily in order to get to the finish line and keep our clients happy. Because there's also the element that we haven't even talked about, which is beyond constructability and beyond the details from a technology perspective. It's all the documentation from a permitting perspective. So, every single year, if I look back 10 years at the documentation that our firm submitted for a building permit, and I compare it to today, I mean, astronomical deviation. And that's not, it partially has to do with our firm and our projects, but it also is partially to do with liability. So liability from a municipality perspective, and they want to have nothing to do with these projects essentially, right? So they need to cross their T's, dot their I's, and ensure every single component of liability has been removed.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that driving factor, it's increased our workload, and therefore it's increased our fee structures, and so it's this kind of tumbling effect of all avenues coming together. But that's a massive component. Our permit team here at the office, there's 6 of them, right? 6 full-time staff members dealing with permit management, conservation management, engineering, HVAC designs, all of those integrated ideas.
But perhaps we could talk a little bit more about how the internal structure looks inside of your firm, because you've got 20 people working on projects that so basically never know any larger than the 600 square meters.
Correct. Yeah.
And all in the kind of residential sector predominantly.
Correct. Yeah, we do, maybe one commercial project every 2 years, and it's a very small scale commercial. So it's very much custom residential. So we do renovations, we do renovation additions, we do custom homes, and we do cottages. And so the way the company is structured, we have the architectural team, which is about 14 or 15 people. And then we have the interiors team, which is about 6 or 7, kind of depending on the day, because we have a couple of team members that jump between the departments. So I'm the CEO, but I'm also the creative director for the architectural department. So from a design perspective, I'm working with Julia, Brandon, Chris, and Hayden. So I team up with one individual on each project. And so that way, if I'm in a meeting, if I'm unavailable, that team member is available to either have a meeting with the client, have a meeting on site, ensure that the project's moving forward successfully. Once we get through the design stage and we get the client's approval, then it gets pushed over to the permit team. So the permit team is managing construction documentation, detailing, engineering, HVAC, etc. So Lindsay manages that side of the business. She's our director of operations. Hugely critical aspect of getting those builds approved and in the hands of the builder for execution for the client. And then the other half of the team, the interiors team, Nicole heads up our interior department, and same structure. So we're creative director, and then designers, and then the execution team for drafting and for material selections. And again, that's an ever evolving process as well. As we've gotten bigger, as the projects have increased, as the values have increased, my role kind of continues to move and maneuver. That and kind of coinciding with our team members having been here for 3, 5, 6 years and having more experience to bring to the table, and having that aptitude to be able to answer questions, and me not always having to be involved in those meetings.
And do you run it then where, in terms of the hierarchy within the architectural team itself, how do you prevent yourself becoming the bottleneck of a lot of questions?
There is no doubt that I am a bottleneck. still today. I've been a part of the 5 a.m. club for 15 years. And my sweet spot for getting work done is 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's when I'm really concentrating on really detailed email resolutions or markup on details, because the permit team has a question and I need to provide resolution. That's really my sweet spot, because come 8 o'clock, from 8 o'clock a.m. until 5 o'clock p.m., it's usually meetings, site visits, internal meetings, external meetings, etc. So there's no doubt I am a bottleneck at times, and that is, that changes from week to week. It depends on what are the priorities of the firm. There's no doubt, Ryan, it's still something that I struggle with. And again, it's a matter of, I would say, 2 years ago, I had to resolve 50% of intense questions that came up. And today I'm now down to, let's say, 15. And so, that's been a big jump with kind of, moving and meandering the business model and meandering the team. But yeah, there's no doubt that I'm still that bottleneck on 15% of the projects. I think the hardest thing to sell to clients is, this is Simple Design Studio, right? This is SMPL. This isn't Joel Tanner. And we are still struggling with that element of clients wanting to communicate directly with me. And again, I'm happy to, if you want to drop me a quick text message or a quick email, sidebar from other things that are happening on the project because you had a thought pattern, I'm happy to jump in. I'm so insanely passionate. I can't ignore those things. But it's a matter of like, okay, if there's this mini dialect resolution, then clean it up and send it to the team in an email format. So that, you bring everybody back into the fold. And that is probably going to continue to be, an issue for this foreseeable future. But again, that's been something that's been evolving over the last 2 or 3 years as well, because we've noticed that, we've talked about it as a leadership team issue, on how to kind of finesse those things, because it's no doubt I don't have all the answers. There's a reason there's 20 of us in the office, and they all play such a critical role in getting that project to the finish line. And so, as much as I can say, oh, that's completely unrealistic for a client to think that I'm doing everything, it's like, well, if we don't train them as a client and set those expectations, how do they know any better, right? And so I'm guilty of that, right? I'm guilty of probably not spending enough time kind of on educating those steps and maneuvers and team members. And again, it's that constant evolution, because as soon as we finesse that over the next 12 months, something else is going to come up, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So as you've grown to 20 people, has it been, over the last 15 years, has it been a kind of slow incremental growth where kind of one person has been added at a time, or has it been more like surges where all of a sudden you've taken on 5 people in a go and the company suddenly doubled its size?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, we were a team of one for from 2012 to 2016. I had a part-time student twice in that 6-year period, but it was essentially just me for the most part. And then in 2016, we hired our first-time employee. She graduated from college, so she was a part-time student of ours and turned into a full-time role as a drafter. And then about 3-4 months later, we brought Lindsay on, who started out as bookkeeping and quickly unraveled into director of operations within 3 years.
Wow, amazing.
And so she was a key interval in kind of, being a part of the business of architecture program back in 2019, and was really the catalyst of something needing to change, because we went from 2016 having one person to 2 people to 3 people to, by 2019 there was 10 of us. And so and then from 2019 to now we've gone from 10 to 20. So it has been it was definitely like incremental growth pre-COVID, and then incremental growth during COVID. And then, we've remained steady at this number since the last 2 years. So about 2023, we've been 20. We don't have plans for growth. We are at the point where we really just are happy saying no. And that's a really hard thing to do as a business owner, to turn down money, and to turn down work, and to turn down opportunities. But if they're not the right opportunities, then it makes sense to turn down that money, right? Because we want to specialize in modern single-family homes, renos, additions, cottages. And we also want to do it with clients that are realistic about their budget. So that doesn't mean I need every client to have $5 million in their bank to build these homes.
Sure.
If somebody comes to me and they say, okay, Joel, we want to build a 400 square foot home, tiny little cabin in the woods. If you come to me with a realistic budget of $500,000 for a 400 square foot cabin, we'll jump on board. Absolutely. Because it's exciting, it's different, it's unique. We have that proper mindset of what that success is going to look like. But if a client comes to you and they want to build a 6,000 square foot home and they have $1 million, the reality is we just can't do it. And we're also not there to sell something that doesn't exist. Other people, there's people in the industry that will. There's no doubt about it, whether it be a builder, whether it be a designer, a drafter, et cetera, sky's the limit with $1 million. But we've just been around the block too many times that we know what is realistic and we know what is unrealistic. And it's our job as professionals to educate the consumer, right? It's like, what can you build? And so we kind of rephrase that, say, okay, well, you want to build 6,000 square feet. What do you actually need? Well, we need 3 bedrooms and we need 3 bathrooms and living, dining, kitchen. Okay, well, are you open to actually building a 3,000 square foot home? And are you open to then having a budget of, let's say, 1.4 million? Because if you don't have a comprehension on square footage, and we can introduce you to a comprehension of square footage, and we can introduce you to a concept of value within that, then maybe we can actually come up with a happy medium.
Mm-hmm.
Or the question is, or the answer from the client is, no, I need 6,000 square feet and I have $1 million. Then that's when we kind of have to walk away, right? After doing that determination of education of what we think is realistic.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other innovations that you've been doing in the business, some of the other kind of streams of potential revenue, such as your product line. And perhaps we could talk a little bit, about that, the sink, and how that's come about, and what the intentions are around that kind of service or product.
Absolutely, yeah. And so we started as an architectural brand. We diverted back in about 2018 to wanting to do architecture and interiors. It was a natural progression because the product that was getting delivered on site wasn't reaching our expectation or that kind of final vision. And we really had this thought pattern that the project could have just been better had we been involved through to completion. And so that's what drove the architectural team to then encompass an interiors team. From there, there's that natural progression of like, well, we're doing the interiors. Now we need to do interior decorating. We need to be involved in key furniture pieces and key areas. We don't need to be involved in every single piece, but there are strategic areas in the homes that we really feel we can bring value proposition to the table, and introduce clients to new and exciting and fresh products, just like we do with our ideas from an architecture and interiors perspective. Couple years back, we had this idea of, we have these amazing relationships with vendors, with suppliers, with builders, with makers. Why not take that skill set and apply it to a custom product that's an SMPL branded product? And so, what do we want to do? Do we want to do a light fixture? Do we want to do a plumbing fixture? So the first product line that we started with, that we launched this summer, was a poured concrete vessel sink. So it's a floor-mounted poured concrete custom design. It was a really fun project for the team to kind of, okay, let's get outside of our wheelhouse and out of our standard understanding. And, what can we bring to the table? What a value can we bring to the table? So it was a pretty exciting adventure there. The maker that we worked with was local, about half an hour from our office, 20 minutes from our office. He went through 3 different prototypes with us to get to a point where his mold, had basically reached peak perfection, and was willing to then build the actual final mock-up product. So the final mock-up product, I actually just installed it in my personal home 3 weeks ago. And
congratulations.
Again, so now it's, it's exciting to be able to use it, to test it, to touch it, to feel it, to get people's reactions to it inside the space. So I'm really hopeful. We've got a couple clients that are super excited about it, that want to use it in their upcoming build that we're in the ground on now. So hopefully we can kind of transition that product into their homes. And who knows what's next? I think there's so many opportunities to work with these talented individuals that we already have relationships with. But instead of doing that kind of classic approach to product, let's do something a little bit more exciting, innovative, and have it as a dual branded product.
Amazing. Very cool. So what have you got planned for the rest of this year and for 2025?
Yeah, so every fall we basically strategize what our goal and intent is for the next calendar year. So busy working on budget, busy working on goals and perspectives, analyzing our fee structure, what we want to do with our fee structure. So because we're a fixed cost approach, there's always kind of this give and take of, okay, what are we bringing to the table truly, and what are clients really buying? And every year that we progress, it's like, no, like we bring so much value to the table. Like, these projects are incredible. Our clients are happy. Potential buyers are excited. We know what sets us apart in the industry. We know what we're bringing to the table. And so that incremental cost deviation for us is really important to continue to provide high caliber, and additional time investment in those projects. So we're analyzing that right now. I'll be honest with you, the hardest thing for me as a business owner is a 10-year plan and even a 5-year plan. I
Sure.
really struggle with it. If you had asked me 15 years ago what my goal and intent was with the company, I would have no idea. And so, having said that, though, we have seen the value in setting a goal and setting a guideline for how and what we want to change. So
Mhm.
our goal for 2025 is to increase our architecture and interior project collaborations. So last year, we had signed contracts. 7% of our projects were architecture interiors. This year, we jumped that percentage up to 33%. Next year, we want to take it closer to 60%. So the intent there is that 60% of clients signing a contract with our firm are doing so to have architecture and interiors delivered as a kit package. So that's really our key growth platform over the next 5 years, with kind of incremental changes every single year over the next 5 years to try to hit the target of 100% and to basically have that confidence to walk away from a project and say, okay, listen, the client doesn't want us on both of those aspects.
Mhm.
That's our specialty. It's our passion. It's our forte. We have to turn on the project, right? So that's really where we're striving to be in the next 5 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And just quickly before we wrap up, could you just talk us through your fixed cost approach, and
Yeah.
what are the sorts of systems and structures that you have in place? Because obviously, the fixed fee approach, it can be the best. I think it can be the best way of making money in an architecture practice if you get it right. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it is filled with a lot of challenges, and obviously, there's so many things that can go wrong with your fixed fee approach, from additional services that don't get caught. Obviously, if you undercharge for what it is that you're going to be doing, there are big changes that don't get properly accommodated into a new fee. How do you keep your projects on track with the fixed fee approach, and how do you communicate that in the team as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we try to approach a project where we land at around $10 to $15 a square foot as a fixed fee. And so that's really a baseline.
Hmm.
And we know that, other really good designers in the industry are kind of floating around that fee structure. And actually, we might actually probably be more expensive than most of them now.
Hmm.
But what we do know is that when we look at our fixed fee against our competition of who we want to be, so the higher ups in the architectural sector, architects specifically, we know what they charge, and so we can kind of go into these projects with the experience that we bring to the table, with that confidence of kind of being able to charge a little bit more. We approach it in our contractual agreement with the client that they get up to 6 custom rounds of revisions. So there could be 3 changes, there could be 35 changes within that round. But that's how we kind of platform out our contract agreement and how we set up our projects in Monday.com when we're setting everything up. So we're pretty diligent with our project management tool to make sure we set that expectation with the team. We keep track of those items. So let's say 6 times out of 10, we kind of get through a project free and clear, super successful, no change orders, and we're in for permit. The other 40%, the way we attack things is either it's like, okay, well, we didn't do 6 revisions, we got to 10. And now it's like, okay, we got to kind of have that discussion with the client of, we can do these tweaks and changes, but are they truly what you want to see? Or are you just doing it for fun? And so if you set that expectation of like, oh, I'm happy to now make this 10th revision for you, it's going to cost you $1,000. So we just do fixed cost change orders. I don't do hourly change orders. It's
Right.
much easier for us to manage. And the client's like, oh, yep, absolutely. And then, or others might be like, no, you know what? Like, I think we're good, actually. I think we're good. I think we can sign off here. I think we can move on.
Hmm.
So all of our change orders are fixed cost. If we get further down the line and we're prepping for permit submission and a client makes a change, we kind of pull everything back and hit square one. Like, okay, we need to revise architecture. We need to go back to the engineer, the mechanical design. Here's what we think it's going to take to get to the finish line. We present that cost structure to the client. We get their approval. We charge them the change order, and we deliver the work. So we're not set up as a firm to do hourly work. It's just much too tricky when you're set up as a fixed fee firm to then also keep track of hours on a change order side of things.
For sure.
And so again, you win some and you lose some. Sometimes we say, okay, it's going to be about 8 hours. Maybe it's 20. Well, you know what? That's our fault, not the client's, right? We didn't set that expectation clearly enough. But across the board, when I look at, our pattern of growth from the last 15 years, but I think more importantly from 2019, 2020, when we really truly started to grow as a team, work with the business of architecture team, focus on finances, focus on profit first. I think we've made some really good headway. We're quite happy with our profit margin. We're not looking to become instantaneous millionaires. We absolutely love what we do. We design these amazing projects for clients all over North America. And so there's that sweet spot of profit and of excitement within those projects to make things happen.
Amazing. Brilliant. Well, I think that's the perfect place to conclude the conversation there, Joel.
Awesome.
It's been an absolute privilege and a delight to hear a little bit behind the scenes of your firm. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
And that's a wrap.
Hey, Enoch Sears here, and I have a request. Since you are a listener here of the Business of Architecture podcast, Ryan and I, we love putting this podcast together. We love sharing information as much as we can glean from all the other industries that we're a part of to bring it back to empower you as an architect and a designer. And one thing that helps us in our mission is the growth of this podcast, simply because it helps other architects stand for more of their value, spreads the business information that we're sharing to empower architects together so architects, designers, engineers can really step into their greatness, whatever that looks like for each individual. And so here my simple ask is for you to join us and be part of our community by doing the following: heading over to iTunes and leaving a review of the podcast. And as an expression of our sincere thanks, we would like to give you a free CEU course that can get you one professional development unit, but more importantly, we'll give you a very solid and firm foundation on your journey to becoming a profitable and thriving architect. So here's the process for that. After you leave us a review, send an email to support@businessofarchitecture.com. Let us know the username that you use to leave the review, and we will send you that free training. On the training, you'll discover what 99% of architecture firm owners wish they would have known 20 years ago. And the other 1%, well, they just didn't even know that they didn't know. Head over to iTunes and leave us a review now.
This episode is sponsored by Smart Practice, Business of Architecture's flagship program to help you structure your firm for freedom, fulfillment, and financial profit. If you want access for our free training on how to do this, please visit smartpracticemethod.com. Or if you want to speak directly to one of our advisors about how he might be able to help you, please follow the link in the information. Hello listeners, we hope you're enjoying our show. We love bringing you these insightful conversations, but we couldn't do it without the support of our amazing sponsors. If you're a business owner or know someone who would be an excellent fit for our audience, we'd love to hear from you. Partnering with us means your brand will reach over 40,000 engaged listeners each month. Interested in becoming a sponsor? Please send us an email at support@businessofarchitecture.com. The views expressed on this show by my guests do not represent those of the host, and I make no representation, promise, guarantee, pledge, warranty, contract bond, or commitment, except to help you be unstoppable.